Hey everybody, this is Tom with VermiBag. It's been 6 weeks now since I started up this little Mammoth and also the Tote over here. So do a quick video today and just give you an update on the little Mammoth and the Tote. I've been running the vermi cover in the little Mammoth now for almost 3 weeks, and I'm real impressed with how it's working, how it's holding the moisture in, and just how much the worms really love getting underneath the cover. And it actually gives me an opportunity too to put a little bait, sticky bait trap on the top of the vermi cover for a lot of the little flying, crawling things that tend to come up on top. And when we open it up, another thing to note is you won't see, the worms don't come up on top of it at all. You'll see no trailings or anything where they've been on top of the vermi cover. They really stay down underneath it. I'm also going to go ahead and do a pretty heavy feeding on it today. I have about 2.5 pounds of scraps here, and then I'm probably going to add about 2 gallons of bedding with that, my pre-made moist bedding. So let's take a quick peek and we'll show you how that vermi cover is doing and just how the worms are doing. And we'll look at that on the little Mammoth, and we'll also take a quick peek at the Tote. Now I have been feeding the little Mammoth a little bit of birdseed, that ground up birdseed that I make my worm chow out of. And they really love that. And that tends to bring them up to the surface as well. So it's not 100% just the cover, but you'll really see how much the worms are hanging out right at the cover. And the worm population in here is really getting thick. I may try and do another video and dig some of that out and just see if we can see what kind of cocoon population is in there. I think there must be an awful lot of cocoons. So let's pull in close and take a look at this and see how the worms are doing. Now, as I mentioned before, you can see where there's no trailings at all on top of this. So there haven't been any worms up on top. And the nice thing is I can also put this little sticky trap in here. And this works pretty good. Bugs come around, they crawl on the surface and stuff, and it catches actually quite a few. Let's go ahead and pull one end of this up and take a peek. You can see all the worms that are underneath here. And they're all a lot right at the surface. And notice too, all the castings right at the very surface of this thing. You can tell they've been working over the top of this pretty well. Take a peek at the other side. And again, same thing over here. There's a lot of worms. They're real active right at the surface. A lot of castings right at the surface too. You can see there's a fine layer of probably a 1/2 inch of castings right at the absolute top of this material. Let me pull this cover out of here. And look, if you dig under just a tiny little bit, you can see the worms are thick. I mean, the top 2 inches of this material is just loaded with worms. They look really healthy. It's almost anywhere I dig. If I dig over in another spot, same thing. Lots and lots of worms here. They're definitely happy with this material and the way the system is right now. But it's pretty impressive to have all the worms, in the top couple inches of the system. And I mean, most of these worms are up really high, and it seems like they're down, 2 or 3 inches for the most part. I mean, the majority of them are. There has to be a lot of cocoons in here. I may do another video and take a peek at this and see exactly how many cocoons are actually in this system. The worm population is exploding, so I see quite a few as I'm digging around here and stuff, but there has to be an awful lot. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the scraps that I have and the bedding and go ahead and get this thing fed. Okay, now to get this thing fed, I had a little technical glitch, so I already put about a 1/2 gallon of bedding just on the surface here, just where I can put the scraps and stuff on top of it. As far as scraps, again, I have 2.5 pounds of scraps. I guess there's a mixture: avocados, artichoke leaves, peppers, cucumbers, squash, some corn, and a good mixture overall. Now, one thing that I have found that I really like to do is I don't like to pile up my scraps like that and then just put bedding over the top of it. The worms don't really like going into pure scraps. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe it starts heating up, but they really prefer to have the scraps kind of mixed in with some bedding around it. And I think it's because it gives them like an avenue to get in and around and over the top. You know, it isn't just a pile of scraps. So when you're putting your scraps in, go ahead and mix a little bit of this bedding around it and cover it up so the worms can get at it from underneath and in between. And also, again, your scraps won't start hot composting on you. So that's about it. I'm going to dig this big avocado down just a little bit further. Now I'm going to go ahead and place the vermi cover back on the top. And place my little bait trap in one of the corners. Just try and catch a few pests as they come out on the top of this thing. And that's it for the VermiBag Little Mammoth. We'll go ahead and go over there and just take a really quick peek at the tote. I mean, it's not much is changing, but the worms are doing really well in there. Let's go ahead and open up the tote. And I've been moving this around a lot, so all the worms that were on the surface probably went down. But, you know, if I dig down just a little bit, you can see there's a lot of worms in here still. You know, this material is actually, again, it seems to be turning faster than the stuff that's in the Little Mammoth, but again, you know, a big reason for that is that this is this is only a little over a square foot of surface area and stuff. There's not nearly as much material in here. There's probably almost as many worms. Yeah, the worms I don't see a big concentration, but I also don't see any food. So, well, there's a banana peel, and there's actually a concentration of worms there, a little bit around the banana peel. But trying to remember what I had in here last week. I thought there was something here in the center, but I don't see anything. But notice here when I go down about, I guess that's 3 inches. See this material here? You know, this is really looking nice. And there's worms down deep here too in this system. Actually, probably a lot of worms down deep. But again, this is not a flow-through system, so you're going to have to do a separation on these. We'll probably bait one side or the other and do a migration on this. See, I know there was something over on this side too. There was something, because there's definitely a lot of worms there, but I don't know what it was. Well, maybe it was a little chunk of squash. There's just a little tiny little piece left here, but there's a lot of worms in that area for sure. A little piece of a banana. Moisture-wise, this system is perfect again. You could probably almost do a sifting on this if you harvested it right now. It's not overly wet at all. The very, very bottom of the system is probably a little bit damp, but up here, you know, and down 3, 4, 5 inches, I mean, it's really nice. You can see how it just flakes apart in my hand. And I do see quite a few cocoons in here as well. So, you know, the worms are doing really well in here. The system's getting pretty full. So I am going to go ahead and throw a little bit of food into this and a tiny little bit more bedding. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of squash. They're going to love me. I found some more squash in the freezer. And I'm not going to add any onto the surface like I did on the tote because the worms had plenty of time to go down a little bit deeper and stuff, so I'm not going to freeze any of them. I'm going to try and place these down into the system just a little bit. And then I'm going to place about almost a gallon of bedding. And again, I'm going to put the bedding over the top of all this for the worm can, go anywhere in this system and get on all sides of this. So that's it. We'll go ahead and zip this guy up, but he's good for another week. We'll take a peek at it next week, and we'll take a look at the little Mammoth and see how that's doing. But I've said 10 times, but overall, both these systems are doing really, really well, and especially considering it's winter time, so it's cool. I mean, we don't get really cold here, but it can drop down into the 40s, I suppose, high 40s. So for me, that's cold. The rest of you guys that are in all those cold areas, you're getting down below zero. I don't envy you for sure. So that's it for today. We'll take a peek at these next week and see how they're doing. This is Tom from VermiBag. Until next time, ciao.